Hello and welcome to In Great Company. Super excited to be here. I hope this is the first of many more episodes to come with all of you and our special guest. In Great Company is a show where I will interview leading minds in business to share resources, tools, advice, stories that will help you grow, manage, and thrive in business. My name is Ramona Cedeño. I'm a CPA. I'm also the founder of Fabric, an accounting practice that works with entrepreneurs, tech companies, service companies, and many other businesses and business owners to help them with finance, accounting, tax. But also, I do love technology. I love building connections. So In Great Company came about because those are the three main areas that I would like to focus on for my business, for my clients, and for my team. And every Tuesday, or second Tuesday and fourth Tuesday of the month, I will have a special guest. And today we have Joe Rojas. Joe Rojas is the Chief Visionary at Red Sapiens. Thank you so much for being with us, Joe.
I'm happy to be here. I can't wait to check this thing out.
Yes, super excited. We're going to be talking about the pandemic aftermath when it comes to our business, how to adapt for 2020 to be successful. It is known by so many now that the pandemic had such a negative impact in small businesses, and it has been over 18 months. Actually, there are a few days after 18 months, and the stories that we heard over the last few years, the last few months, were sometimes so sad and devastating. Every day, I could tell in my clients' voices when they were overwhelmed, they were panicking, when they didn't know where their business was going to end. And it was sad to see that no one was prepared for what happened. And the goal today is to tell you how to survive or overcome the challenges that we just went through and get ready for the rest of the year and 2022. And it doesn't stop here. We have to do a lot of work. We have to learn. We have to educate ourselves. We have to talk to other peer business owners and find resources to really help us succeed. But we'll give you some advice today. And Joe, let me describe Joe the Ramona way. Joe is someone who has the answer to everything. And if he doesn't have the answer, he will find it for you. I promise you that. And it doesn't have to be business related. It can be personal. One day I asked a question about parenting, and he knew the answer to my concern or my question. So really, I'm really excited to have Joe here and looking forward to having a great conversation with him. Joe, please tell us a little bit about you and the great things that you're doing.
Well, first, I'm just so excited to be here with you and so moved by how your business is scaling and how you're growing and all the wonderful things that are happening with you. For those, you guys know my name already. I'm an entrepreneur, been an entrepreneur for 30 years plus. And I started off at an early age, and I failed a lot in the beginning. And then I got better. And then I learned how to get a business from under $1 million to over $1 million. And then I was able to do it over and over. And then I was able to train people to do that. And now, what we do at Start, Grow, Manage is really help people do that. It's how do you start, grow, and manage your business. And I'm of Dominican descent. So I have Dominican parents. I was born a first generation New Yorker. Grew up in Washington Heights in Harlem in the 80s when it was crazy, and and that's my whole thing.
Thank you, Joe. And I know Joe for many years now, and I know all the transitions that he has gone through. Not that all good transitions, all good shifts, and
some good transitions.
No, very good. I love everything you do, and every time you come up with something new, some new branding or a new program, I'm like, how did he come up with that name? How did he get that name? How did he get the concept? I just love everything you do. But we'll talk more about your branding and your business in a little bit. As we head into 2021, and I'm a huge planner, and as an accountant, as a financial expert and fractional CFO, I have to be. So I'm always looking 10 months, 12 months ahead. But as we get into the end of 2020, what are the 3 areas that you would recommend small business owners focus on to lead their business into success next year?
That's an awesome question, right? And especially with what you said about in the wake of the pandemic and everything that's happening, what I notice is that there are 3 areas that people really, really need to take a look at. And the first is building your business machine, right? Because what you'll find is that if you don't build a machine, you're in what we call a spin cycle. You know, you go, grow, and then you can't grow anymore, and then you end up back, and then you grow, and then you end up back, right? So what does that look like? If you want to build for resilience, if you really want to build something that's going to take you to that next level, you have to think about a couple of things. The first is, who's your client? Who's your client avatar? And a lot of people say, I'm agnostic. Well, agnostic doesn't work because you have to talk to a particular person. They need to be able to hear your message and say, yeah, you're it. Now, it doesn't mean that if you pick an avatar, you're not going to do business with other people. You're going to do business with everybody who comes that qualifies to be your client, that you feel comfortable, that's consistent with your values. You're going to do that. That's not what we're saying is when you're having a conversation, that external conversation has to speak to that particular avatar. And you have to focus on progress. What does progress look like? How do you measure that progress, right? So part of that is, so that's number 1, right? That's number 1. It's like you have to build your machine. And those are the 2 parts of the machine. And that's what's going to give you resilience. And that's what's going to give you all that stuff. And you have to have process. If you don't have clear processes, you can't really build a machine. Without your avatar and without process, you don't have a machine. So those are the 2 things. The next thing is you have to create that 90-day business plan. So here we are nearing the end of the quarter, right? I know that you're going to be meeting with all your clients and talking to them about their last 30 days. They need to set themselves up to have a powerful 2022. So now that you've done this first part and you've looked at that, you have to figure out what are the big 3 things that you need to get done, right, in the quarter. And then you need to break those down to 30-day plans. And what are the big 3 things that you need to get done in the month, right? So you have to pick a theme for each month, and then you have to break down those months. And that's very similar to a lot of the work that you're doing with your clients at Fibric to really look at their financials and all that stuff and get them prepared. So just like that, you have to do that with building these processes and what's the client journey for your avatar and all that stuff. You have to start to really sort that out. And you have to spend, so that's the second thing. The third thing is you have to spend about 10% of your time really on designing the business, on building the machine. What I find is that most entrepreneurs spend this much time building the machine, designing, thinking about how the onboarding process works, how to offload and delegate all the things that they're doing, how to automate, it's that design of the machine. So those are the 3 top things that I see that business owners could be doing as we head into this quarter.
Thank you so much, Joe. And I laugh as you say those things because you know me. How am I going to focus on just 3 things? You know,
I do know you.
You know me, and probably everyone who listens to me and sees me on social media feels the same way about me. How does she do so much? I have a hard time focusing on just 3 things. I feel I can focus on 10. So talk about how business owners can prioritize to choose those 3 areas of focus in the next 30 days.
Awesome. So we've got some great resources about that. But one of the, and you know, people could reach out later and get some resources from us. But we have this exercise called the Queen Bee resource, where you figure out what are the most important 6 things that you do for your business. What's the most important 6 things that everybody in your company does for their job, right? And then you get to prioritize what those things are in your time allocation to them. And so, and what you want to figure out is what are the things that are most important that you should be doing, and that's what you want to prioritize, because it's what's going to help you build the machine better.
It's funny, you always, I love marketing, right? Maybe that's not what I should be doing, but selecting that one thing is not always easy. You mentioned process. I am such a big believer in having processes and good processes that work for everyone. And it's an area that a lot, like you said, a lot of business owners don't focus on. And when they have turnover, the process wasn't there. It's not something that can be easily transitioned to someone else. Can you talk about some of the negative consequences of not having these processes so that we can really see the impact this can have on our business?
Yeah. Well, some of the negative processes, the most important negative thing not process, but the most important negative thing that happens is that you get stuck in the spin cycle, right? When you don't have a process, you become employee dependent, right? And so now you're going. That employee leaves, and you're back to the beginning again. Now you're doing the work. You don't have a clear. So to train the next person, it took you a year to train that person. To train the next person, how long is it going to take you? A year. So you're back in the spin cycle. But if you build a process that everybody on the team is following, and that person leaves, and you bring the next person, you put them right into the process, 30 to 60 days later, that person just keeps going, right? So it's having those processes for how this happens and how that happens that lets you not be process dependent rather than employee dependent.
It makes total sense. And it's something that we worked on in the last year. And that we did put a lot of effort into that. And it has made such a huge difference. That and getting the right support team for IT and marketing and all those areas that you need to really thrive and grow. You mentioned the avatar. Did you find that business owners realized during the pandemic that they may have been servicing the wrong client for what they wanted for their business, or that there were opportunities to add a new avatar, replace what they have before as their client's avatar?
I have two different answers to that question.
I only want one. No,
you want the good answer, or do you want the bad answer?
Let me start with the bad first.
Most people didn't even notice that they have an avatar.
I probably only knew that because I had worked with you before.
Yeah. Right. So that's the problem. And because most people didn't notice that they have an avatar, they thought that moving from whatever they were doing live to moving virtual was going to be easy. Mm-hmm. And so the businesses that really failed, that went out of business, that went out of existence, is because they didn't know who they were marketing to. So they couldn't talk to anybody. There was nobody to talk to. Right? Now, there's the businesses that knew who they were talking to. Right? So that's a good answer. The businesses that knew who they were talking to, they just increased the conversation. Mm-hmm. We were working with a gym, and he's based out of DC, right? Mm-hmm. And the whole thing happened, and he had to close his shop because that's what DC said you had to do. And he moved to online, but he knew exactly who his avatar was. He has more clients in other states now than he has in DC, because when that model moved online, he was able to then take those conversations and move them globally, or nationally rather. Right? So when you understand who your buyer is, you can look for that buyer in other markets. If you don't know who that person is, you can't talk to them. So you're stuck. So what I notice is that the people who knew made a good transition, and the people who didn't, they're clinging on for dear life, or they went out of existence altogether.
Yes. No, totally. And I can attest to the fact that knowing who your client is makes such a difference in the way you service your clients and the way you attract new clients. So I definitely recommend going through that exercise to know who your client is and sticking to that and not trying to go around. I mean, I didn't know what my client avatar was for the first 3 years, but I did know this thing. That's one thing that someone told me. I think I was about to start my business. She said to me, she was a CPA also, and she said, don't try to work with every single person that asks for your services. Later you might regret that, and then you are kind of semi-stuck with them for a little longer. So that I knew from the get-go, but then working with you later really made me narrow my my client avatar. As we look into the next 12 years, where do you think how do you see the landscape for small businesses? What is the outlook in general? And I know this is probably an economics question, and I say you know the answer to everything, but is your, yeah.
There's the economy and there's your economy, right? So the outlook for the businesses that are building the machine is great, because the economy will have very little or no impact on a business that's building the machine. All right. For the business that is not doing that, then they're at the mercy of the market, right? So what you have to look at as a business owner is that you have the power to create your own outlook. You have the power to create that business machine that's going to take it to the next level. So what I see as the future is that when you build a machine, you're in control. You have the power. You get to say whether if you're a small business, whether you're going to have a great outcome or not. And I know that when you first start, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like boom, 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 right? But as you start to build it, what you'll notice is that the people who are complaining about about business are the people that don't have a machine. Mm-hmm. And you can attest to that because you lived through this and you had the machine going. And what was the difference for you?
Oh, it was. I mean, I can't complain. That's such a Dominican thing to say, right? I can't complain. I'm Dominican too. Joe mentioned he was Dominican. So it's such a Dominican thing, right? I can't complain, Just let's leave it there. No, we, at Fabric, we had everything. We worked to get to the place where we are, right? We worked really hard to identify who we wanted to work with and to really market to them and service them. And we find the resources, companies like yours and outsource technology firms and marketing to really bring everything together, because all the pieces need to align. I need to know who my client is, yes, but I need to have the resources and the tools and the processes that help me service that client well. Right. Yeah. And I need to also know how to attract that client. So there is a lot of work that goes into it. But once you set it up, then it's like you say, it's a machine. There is no.
I really like what you said, because you've outsourced a lot of things. But the smart thing that you did is that and I'm not saying you have to get us, but you got us first. Right. So we were able to help you with the strategy and really to think about your buyer's journey and all that stuff, because just outsourcing your marketing without having a strategy is not going to help you. Right. When you outsource your marketing and you don't have an all the way through strategy for how you're going to onboard and care for your clients and who your clients are and why, the marketing people don't know what to do. So they're just, it's hit or miss. They're trying, but you're not going to get a real value. So what you did is you said, okay, well, the first thing we're going to focus on is strategy, systems, and process automation. And when we did that, that changed the game. And as you look at with the clients that you're working with, when you bring that to them, it changes the game for them also. And I know you, and I know how you are, so I know that that's what you're bringing to your clients as well. So it's really powerful.
Yeah, definitely. You feel like $1 billion company when you not $1 million, $1 billion company, right?
Yeah.
um, you mentioned earlier that the people or the business owners that don't have the right tools and the systems and machine set up, those are the ones that will complain, right? Like, oh, what am I going to do? What's going to happen? What you work with a lot of business owners. Do you find that there is a good mix of, yes, everything is going to look great, I'm ready, I can't wait for 2022 to come in, and others that are like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, I'm afraid, I'm scared? Like, is there a balance there? Hopefully it's more on the left than on the right. No
Well,
politics here, okay?
Here's the thing. The ones that are working with us, they're the ones that are like, yay, this next year's going to be awesome, because they can see it, right? The ones that are complaining are usually not our clients. So if they come to us and they're complaining, then we start having a conversation about, what we talk to them about is that there's no more uncertainty today than there was on February of 2020. Great. We just had an event happen, but if you have a machine, the machine is resilient. It will compensate and account for that. If you don't have a machine, then it's you trying to hack your way through that forest, right? The uncertainty that I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow morning. Everything, all the markets, everything. So it's really about when you have the right process in place, the process helps you compensate for the shifts in the market. When you don't, then it's really hard.
You sound like me when I talk about finances. If you plan ahead for the next year and the next 5, and if you save and you have cushion, then you won't be shocked when these things happen. I know
that's all part of the process.
Yes.
Everything that you just said now is part of that process. You have to save. You have to have that cushion. You have to have all that is part of the process.
Definitely. Some good things came out for businesses after the pandemic. What are some of the opportunities that you see as small business owners can benefit the most from?
Wow. So one that I've noticed a lot now is that a lot of small businesses that thought they were local realized that they could be national. Like that. It was like that. All of a sudden, they're going to these networking events, and I have somebody from Texas, and I have somebody from Chicago, and those people need my services too. So businesses that thought that they were, I only work in Harlem, I only work in the Bronx, are now servicing clients all over the country. So that was one really good thing. The other thing is that it pushed a lot of companies that were resistant against technology into that next level. They put a lot of their systems online, systems that were not online before, because people needed to get to them. And so all that stuff that they had behind the wall all got put so that their people can actually get to it. And so that was really useful. And the other thing that I noticed is that people really got present to their own life, and their, sometimes you need a wake-up call. And you shouldn't be, if you're grinding 14 hours a day, you lost the war. You need to figure out a machine that cuts your hours every week by 30 minutes so that you're working 4 to 6 hours a day, right? And the rest of the time you're focusing on either designing or spending time with your family or living life, or if you want, spending time with your staff, if that's your thing, then doing that, but you're not grinding. You have to stop the grind.
It's interesting you say that, because I was thinking about this earlier, and I was like, as we talked about this, I don't want to go back to an office. I gained 4 hours in a day, but instead of taking it to go, relax, I'm doing more, and not necessarily work that I don't like doing. Everything that I do, I really enjoy. But when you say to shorten the amount of time that we work, I'm like, how can I do that? If I have time off, I go write a book and I go marketing,
Yeah, and that's exactly what you should be doing. The things that you're passionate about, right? But if you're grinding all the time, you can't write that book. How many more 100 lives, 1,000 lives, thousands and thousands of lives, or hundreds of thousands of lives will get impacted by that book? We'll
True.
never know if you don't write it.
True, right? So for some of the businesses that did not have the opportunity to go virtual, do you have any recommendations for those as we move into 2022?
Well, I recommend that they find a good IT partner like you did, right? And that they start looking at what is it going to take for them to go virtual. They need a plan for that. So part of the 90-day plan that you're doing now at the end of this quarter should be, if I haven't done that work already, who are the partners that I need to get to go virtual? Do not do this yourself. When we did that, you were a much smaller organization, but you did it with a team, and man, that made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Made a huge difference for you doing that with a team and getting to that next level.
And even stores, we had some clients that had a storefront and decided to set up an online store, and they did it during COVID, and now they're successful. And it's much. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this because there are businesses that will be affected, but it is much more cost effective to have an online store than to have a storefront. So there are opportunities there too, unless you must be your restaurant or something like that.
Here's the thing. Mm-hmm. What you must do is make it easy for people to give you money. I was trying to pay for something the other day, and I had to jump through 10 different portals and fill out a form that was like, I had to give them like my whole life story to pay $50 to go to a thing. At halfway through, I gave up 3 times. I finally was like, oh, I really want to go. So I'm going to go through this pain and do it, but make it easy for people to give you money, right? So there's a lot of online processes for that. Make sure you have the right tech partner that makes it easy, that you can make it easy for your clients to do that for you.
Yes, I do the same thing. Even when I'm donating money, if it takes me more than 3 cells, send me the request. I do that to my son. You send me the request on Pay, what is it, Apple Pay, and then I click the button. Joe, this has been amazing. I would like for you to tell the listener how you can be reached. And also, if you have a few pieces of advice that you want to share, please do talk about anything that you want us to know about related to your program.
All right. So if they want to reach us, they should go to startgrowmanage.com. startgrowmanage.com.
Easy.
And it's easy, and you just sign up for the newsletter there. There's ways to get in contact with me there. There's ways to get in contact with my partner Jeff there. If you want to talk about marketing, you can just go to startgrowmanage.com. You will find us there. The advice that I have for you is 30-day plan, 90-day plan. Must do. And you have to plan things that are going to impact this moment. You have to win the hour, and then you win the day, and then you win the week, and then you win the month. So when you put your plan together, you have to look at it from the future, but with the intent of getting the thing done now.
That's awesome. So the takeaway is plan. And it's easier than you think. You just have to get into the habit, and it's going to be a piece of cake. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you so much, Joe. This was great. I learned so much. Again, I will just learn something from Joe. Thank you again. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll be talking about how to set up your new business and set it for success from the get-go. A lot of employees are leaving the workforce to start a new company or a side gig, and we want to make sure that you're set for success. And again, thank you. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And now, if we have any questions, we'll take a few minutes to answer them. Let's see if we have anything. Oh, just a lot of praising. Okay, so we have a question from Miles. I just outsourced our marketing. They're not hitting our core message. I've had a meeting with them. How much time do I give them to get the message right? That's a question for Joe.
Yeah. So part of that is really is the brand story right? Do you have your message for your company, and do you understand who your client is, and did you give that information to the marketing company? Because they're not going to hit the mark if you don't know exactly who you're serving, right? So part of that is what I said. I said this earlier because I saw Miles' question earlier, and what I said earlier is you have to do that strategy first, like you did, or you have to at least think about the strategy of the planning, or you're not going to be able to the strategy of the marketing. I'm sorry, you have to think of the strategy of the marketing or your marketing strategy, but you have to understand who your client is. And if you don't know who that is, there's no marketing company in the world that can help you, right? So, and it has to be clear defined. It cannot be, people who run an office anywhere in New York. Like, that's not, I work with podiatrists that are between 85th Street and 125th Street, and they work on this problem. Okay, great. Now I can go find who those people are, right? But you have to get your message that tight. And if you don't, then it becomes hard.
Is there a point at which he should say, I need a new company?
Yes, right? So in terms of time, I don't know. I'd have to talk to Jeff and see, really think about. If I talk to Jeff, I know what he's going to say. You should get rid of them immediately. If they went to market with a non-strategy, they've got to go. Yes. Right? So if you keep having to have conversations, it's not it. And usually the cost is exorbitant, and you're paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month, and you're waiting 6 months to see if you get a client. That's no. So when you get rid of them, now.
Thank you, Joe, for that. If we have any more questions, we'll reply via the chat later on. Continue to leave us your comments, and we are here to reach out to any of us. Thank you, Joe, and we'll see you on another show.
Oh, it's so great to see you and be with you today.